I actually think there are a lot of the skills that you develop in a setting like that are probably really helpful in the kind of public fora. I mean, trying to navigate personalities and relationships with other musicians is not easy, right? The Beatles couldn't do it. So when you're able to do that and you have differences of opinion, oh, I think it should sound this way. No, I think it should sound this way. And you have to kind of reach consensus. Otherwise, you are no longer a band, right? There's actually a lot to a lot of good takeaways there that we could probably use in the formal organization space.
All right. I'm Laura Forcum, president of the Independent Center and a former marketing professor.
I'm Lauren Hall, professor of political science and author of the Substack, The Radical Moderate's Guide to Life.
This is We Made This Political, a podcast about making politics more about flourishing and less about power.
We talk about living together in families, communities, and as citizens, drawing from our backgrounds in psychology and political science, and as parents.
All right, Shaka. So you're going to be on the hot seat.
I'm on the hot seat. Well, thank you so much for doing that. Yeah.
Your turn to answer questions. So I guess the question that our audience would love to hear the answer to is like, where did this idea come from? Like, what led you down this path?
Sure. So a few things, and I'll try to keep it brief, but this idea really started back kind of height of COVID. I think when we started, it was 2021. All of a sudden, everybody is social distancing, and we are, I, along with lots of other people, realized how much we missed being in contact with one another, right? Because we lost a lot of that, whether it was at church or in school or even going to the grocery store was this sort of weird experience, right? With only a limited number of people in there and everybody's masked up, and it's just human interaction was lacking. So I and some friends started getting together and doing this thing called Song Swap. And we would just get together. I live in Nashville. It's Music City. There's kind of always music around, songs around, artists around. And we started getting together in a friend's driveway because, again, it's COVID. So we're sitting outside. And we would send around some song categories ahead of time, and everybody would bring links to their selections. And then we'd listen to it, and we'd, talk about why we picked the songs. And it was often something that was much more music related. So that very first time, we talked about a song that was a guilty pleasure. And you do that, and you learn, you can learn a lot about somebody when you ask them, what kind of music do you listen to when no one else is around?
Yes.
Right. And I learned that nearly everyone in my middle-aged male friend group was a Swiftie. And so, sort of interesting. So we did this, and we were doing this kind of on a monthly basis for the better part of a year and a half. But very quickly realized, hey, something else is happening here. We are not just learning about new music, we're learning about one another. And so at the same time, you're seeing this in the country, this rise of political division. Hit this number where 51% of Gen Z avoids going home for the holidays because they don't want to be a part of the conversations around the Thanksgiving table or in the living room with their family, right? So you're seeing that division on the rise, and I started thinking, I think if we were more intentional about how to kind of craft this experience, we can use music as a way to bring people together. And so I decided to, try my hand at it and incorporated it as a nonprofit earlier in 2025. So sort of started recording some episodes to see if I thought it was doable and if there was a format that worked. And I think I hope you two agree, but I think the format works, and I think music. It's really. I wish I could claim more of it, but I think that this is just what music does. There's a reason that music is part of every faith tradition. It's part of every known human civilization. I could nerd out about that stuff, but that's kind of the origin story.
I love that. I think that what's neat about the format is that I think music has this incredible ability to bring us together, but on its own, those bonds are not always sort of permanent. Like, we've all been to like concerts where like you're singing in unison and like there's this sort of sense of like total, oneness with the world or whatever, depending on also how much you've drank and all the other stuff. But,
right.
but it's not like more about those people when you leave, other than the fact that you have shared this experience. But what's really cool about the format that you've put together is that it becomes, so like you get that like dopamine hit of hearing the music and you're all sort of like bopping along, but then you actually dig into like what this means to you, like why, and there is that like interesting like memory piece that I think is really fascinating, how sticky music is. And different songs pull from totally different parts. Like when I think about you two, I think about a totally different sort of area than Laura does, but we both still connect at that one point, right? It's this really interesting kind of network effect.
Yeah.
Did it take some trial and error to come up with that format, or were you sort of like you kind of knew what it would look like out the gate?
It's a good question. I still continue to think about an experiment with what it looks like when we do it with a live audience. So and we've had this like virtual live audience, which I still actually have no idea if it's working right now. But so if you're listening, thanks. And if not, you'll catch it when we re-air it and replay it. But so I think about how to make it really interactive. And so, for instance, next year in 2026, I don't want to scoop myself just yet, but we've got an opportunity to do a monthly event series here in Nashville, like live and in person with folks coming together in kind of almost like salon style. And I think about how to enable people to take some of this back to their own organization, or their business, or even their family, right? You could do this. You could do this with family. And again, as we just did with the two of you who know one another already, you've got history, yet you still learn something about each other. And so I think, what we say is that music helps us deepen existing relationships, build new ones, and build bridges. And so I think there's kind of three, you can be in any of those seats and gain some value from doing this with the right questions. One of the things, if we're kind of looking behind the curtain a little bit, one of the ways that we do it is that the questions get increasingly vulnerable. And it allows us to, I think you're a little more primed for the human connection, right? Because we talked first about, hey, what's a song that reminds you of a friend? Well, that's easy. That's not very threatening. It doesn't have to be. Then we talked a little bit about family. Okay, now we're a little deeper. Then we talked about politics, which you're never supposed to talk about. And we talked about protest, right? I think if I actually do think, and I don't know how to test this, but I think that if we went in the reverse order, it would be different. I think the conversation would be different. So I try to be intentional about that journey a little bit.
I love that you said that, because I think about that a lot in policy conversations and political conversations, where people are trying to have a conversation that like they don't have the relationship in place to talk about, right? And so I always think about like what is the easiest way in? Like where do we find things that we all agree need to be reformed? And then let's go from there. But like you can't, like this idea that you can just go up to people and tell them what to think, or even like expect to affect how they think about an issue. That's crazy. You have to build a relationship first.
Totally with you. And so one of my hopes actually is that Come Together Music will sort of serve as like the appetizer, the precursor for some of the work that's happening coming out of other so-called bridging organizations. There's a group called the Pluralist Lab. They came out of the Mercatus Center that you guys know. And, Pluralist Lab is very interested in how do we have more like academic freedom, but also constructive conversation and debate on campus, in higher ed. Cool. Let's do that. Let's talk about that. But to your point, Laura, especially given the fall that we've had and sort of in the news, and I'm thinking now about in Utah with Charlie Kirk, for instance, I don't think you can just say, hey, let's go on campus and talk about the Second Amendment. That's just too fraught. Even the people who want to come to that, I just think it's too fraught. And so one idea that we've discussed with the Pluralist Lab is when they are doing a day and a half kind of workshop, what if you started with a musical experience? Because now we're breaking down some walls. Now we're both breaking down walls, and I think we're building some trust a little bit, right? And so now when Lauren and I have a difference of opinion, I realize, you know what? We actually have some really similar experiences. We're both leaving this and going home to our, crazy lives and families with 3 girls and whatever. And I just think that might make the work of a group like the Pluralist Lab, easier. And so that's one of my hopes, is that we can kind of be the preemptive strike a little bit to that work.
I'm laughing a little because Laura and I probably were the worst 2 people to use that format with, in the sense that we're not used to talking about ourselves on the, but we're very comfortable talking about politics. So if we actually
we're upside down.
Yeah, that's all
we're,
right.
we're,
That's all right.
we're the reverse of that. I was thinking about, while you were talking about sort of just that the appetizer piece. Do you know the work of I think Astrid Jorgensen, the woman who runs Pub Choir?
No.
It's this beautiful model. It's not. Yours is more, I think, long term meaningful. But she's a I don't know, conductor, I guess. But she has developed this way of. She was on America's Got Talent, but she was in Australia for much longer. She was doing this much longer beforehand. And basically, she's developed this way of conducting large groups of people who can't read music to sing along in parts. And so she'll say, you follow the blue line. If you sing low, if you sing medium, you follow the red line. And if you sing high, you're going to follow the yellow line. And you see, if you look at any of the YouTube videos, people are crying toward the end, people, and you've actually you read some of the comments and people are this was life affirming, and it's all these people who don't know each other from Adam, right? It's just this big group of people.
Yep.
But one of the things that she's managed to do is figure out the way that music can kind of it coordinates us, right? It pulls us from these just, we're all bouncing around like pinballs, doing our own thing, leading our own lives. But then we kind of pull together for this one moment and see this, all the things that and even if what we have in common is just that song, right? Belting out a song with 200 other people is a really powerful experience. And then to your point about the parenting, I mean, just the resonance of our experiences as parents of, 3 kids all around the same age, right? We wouldn't have known that, if we'd met professionally and just hung out at a cocktail party. I mean, maybe it would have come up, but it wouldn't have come up in the same way,
Yeah.
Right. So I love that, but also do look at Pub Choir is awesome. It's really fun.
I thank you for that. I'm gonna definitely check that out.
Shaka, it sounds like you have experience performing music with other people. I know I do from my teen years. Lauren, I don't know if you do as well, but I feel like that experience of making music with other people is transformative, transporting. It's incredible. I love that she can offer that to more people.
Yeah. Yep. And that it's aimed specifically at non-trained people. I think that's just so cool. Sorry, Shaka, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know that anybody's studied this. I haven't seen it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I bet that folks who have either played in a band, and I'm not so much meaning a big band or kind of an orchestra, but if you have really tried to play in a garage band where it's just gritty and there's differences of opinions, or even just you're just trying to jam around the campfire. I actually think there are a lot of the skills that you develop in a setting like that are probably really helpful in the kind of public forum. I mean, trying to navigate personalities and relationships with other musicians is not easy, right? The Beatles couldn't do it. So when you're able to do that and you have differences of opinion, I think it should sound this way. No, I think it should sound this way. And you have to kind of reach consensus. Otherwise, you are no longer a band, right? There's actually a lot to a lot of good takeaways there that we could probably use in the formal organization space.
Yeah, even more than the sort of those explicit conversations. I mean, one of my favorite kinds of music to watch is, when I go to New Orleans and you just watch like pickup musicians, right, or like gypsy jazz musicians who just
It's amazing.
And you watch what happens is, which I love, and I was trying to point this out to my kids, and they're like, "Ugh, mom," but you watch them, they're watching each other, right? They're in the moment, they're feeling the music, but then they're also keeping an eye on like who's going to change, who's going to shift, right? Who's going to change.
Yeah.
And so they can pick up on each other. And I think music makes you so sensitive to other people. Like you're more observant than the average person. And so I think if you've trained that part of you, like, it doesn't mean that there's a lot of musicians who are still jerks, but I think it gives you a set of skills that you can take into, like, you're more aware of when someone's off a little bit. Like, they're not quite feeling it. So, yeah.
Yeah, very well put.
There's a lot of research about physical entrainment from doing tasks together and in unison. I don't know how much there is about like interrelationships between small groups of musicians, but I kind of think of that behavior as like, that is the kind of peak human mind reading ability, because you can focus very closely on, say, 4 other people, and you can non-verbally create something together without talking about it. That comes through like practice and learning how to, it's a combination of learning those people and learning music and putting them together in a way that's like really, if you were trying to program it, where would you start, right? Like, this is one of these human cognitive abilities that's just incredible.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, so getting back to the Come Together Music project, like, you asked us what was surprising that
I was going to ask this too, yeah.
And so I was wondering, like, what have you heard doing that work that surprised you? Like, what have been surprising experiences you've had?
Yeah, so I had the great fortune this week of being in Phoenix. And so just a day and a half ago, I was in Phoenix, and we did a session at the Arizona State University, the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. And my guests were 2 judges. One is Arizona Supreme Court Justice Clint Bolick, and then the other is newly appointed Court of Appeals Judge Andrew Beck. So we've got these, 2 jurists who are up there, and they're talking, and we talked about, I asked them to share songs about that remind them of where they grew up, songs that kind of took them back to their time in law school, which was hilarious. Usher, yeah, that was one of the songs. It was a great moment. Asked them to think a little bit about a song that got them through a hard time, a difficult season in life, and then a song that they associate with justice. And we had tremendous conversation. It was great, really fun. There were law students in the room. There were lawyers. The Arizona Supreme Court Chief Justice was in the audience and listening. You asked about what I hear that surprises me. Okay, right out the gate. Second song is Justice Bolick's song about where he grew up. He picked a song called Allentown. It's by Billy Joel. And he didn't grow up in Allentown, but he grew up that's in Pennsylvania. He grew up in New Jersey. And by the way, I would point your listeners, when soon that episode will be out, we'll share some clips from that on cometogetherpodcast.com or on the socials. But he shared about growing up in this kind of hard scrabble town in New Jersey. His dad was a welder. This is a man who co-founded the Institute for Justice, I would say the leading, sort of independent constitutional law firm, litigation firm in the country. Mm-hmm. He started the litigation center at the Goldwater Institute in Arizona. Like, he's litigated in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. He's an Arizona Supreme Court justice. Mm-hmm. I asked him if he, growing up, knew that he wanted to be a lawyer. And he sort of laughed, and you could see him almost get emotional about this. He said, growing up where I grew up, the best jobs were the patronage jobs because it was kind of it felt like a mob type city. Mm-hmm. He said, I used to watch the sanitation truck come by and think that would be a great job because it has benefits and it's really hard to get those jobs. But once you've got it for as long as you want it because it was a patronage job. Mm-hmm. And you could see him kind of getting emotional. You would never think that this highly accomplished man, right? Super accomplished, grew up and his aspiration was to be a sanitation truck, driver. Mm-hmm. Like, just crazy. I never could have guessed that, right? Mm-hmm. And how did we get there? Because we asked him about a song that reminds him of where he grew up. So that happens. Again, not that specific story, but that sort of insight, I feel like happens every time we do this. I hear something and I go, wow, man, we never would have gotten there but for music priming the pump.
Mm-hmm. Has it ever gone off the rails?
Ask me once we do more live audience events, right?
Live is always the harder one, right?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, when we do it, as you two know, guests get the questions a few weeks ahead of time. Mm-hmm. I've yet to have anybody on that comes back and it's like 3 songs and it's all Insane Clown Posse. And I'm just like, oh boy, like this is going to get weird.
That would be a bummer.
Yeah, nobody's done that yet. The song that I asked these 2 judges just this week, it's top of mind because recency bias, whatever. But the song about a hard time, I mean, the song that came through from one of the judges was a 9 Inch Nails song. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it doesn't go off the rails, if I might be so bold. Mm-hmm. I think that the chances that it goes off the rails are pretty low because we're not, after all, talking about the music. Mm-hmm. We're really talking about ourselves and one another. The music is really just a conduit, right? So we'll touch on the things, just as we did. We're going to touch on whatever DMX. We're going to touch on what Bob Dylan, his orientation in writing a song. But really, we're learning about why you picked it, why it resonates with you. Yeah. And so that's really what I'm trying to draw out of people. It's not, so this isn't meant to be a podcast or an experience for music aficionados. It's meant to be like a podcast for people with ears. Mm-hmm. And I think that helps to kind of decrease the risk a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I also think like having the other person there kind of makes it a little safer, right? That it's not just you and your musical tastes sort of like out there for critique and
that's right.
And cringe. Like, I'm sure my kids would be like, "Oh my God, Mom, this is embarrassing."
Well, I think that's a reason that this works also. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I think it works is because we are using someone else's creative expression, mm-hmm. and we're kind of latching onto that, right? I suspect, for instance, if I said, write a song about parenting, it would be mm-hmm. very challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I could never do that. If I said, write a song about your significant other, that's hard. If mm-hmm. I said, what's a song that reminds you of your significant mm-hmm. other? What's a song that, makes you think of them or whatever? And by the way, that song might be different today than in 3 months or than mm-hmm. 6 months ago because people change and seasons, we go through seasons, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I think because we're latching on to someone else's creative expression, it's both easier for us to do, but it also provides kind of a safe amount of distance because if I don't like your song, it's really okay because you didn't write it. You didn't, so I'm not really saying like I don't like you. I might just be saying, oh, this is not my favorite U2 song. Okay, cool. Well, moving on. It's not my favorite U2 song, but that's all right because I just heard a story, and it might not even be your favorite song. You might have picked it for a different reason. So there's it both makes, I think, the exercise more approachable, but also provides some safety, some cover, so that people will engage.
Yeah. So we're almost at the end of time. We love to ask our guests to end the podcast with something that they're feeling optimistic about or hopeful about. It doesn't have to be. It can just be something this week. It doesn't have to be some giant existential thing. But
Great.
What do you have for us?
Well, I am. Mine is not going to be a giant. I guess it's not giant existential. I'm going to talk about the weather, and maybe that's so like basic and lame that nobody wants to hear it. And that's fine. Having been in Arizona, when I got off that plane, it was 95 degrees in October in Arizona, in a place called the United States on this earth, and I thought that is
Not right.
that's unconscionable.
Too hot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I came back to Nashville, and this morning it was 56. And I thought, God bless America. Fall, it still exists. It's still going to happen because I doubted it for a minute. And so I am encouraged. This season is one of my favorite seasons. I think there's a lot to look forward to. And, whether it's family time, whether it's, all the stuff that's happening in the fall with my girls, I do look forward to this season. So that's bringing me some encouragement.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love fall too.
Yeah, there's something, I don't know. It's because we're in the South, it doesn't have that same like back to school feel. It does feel like we're kind of like buckling down for something. We got to get through winter. This is part of easing into winter or something.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Shaka. This was so much fun. I love the format. I'm really excited. Where can people find you? And we'll put all of the links and everything in the show notes. And then we will drop this episode in the next couple of weeks. But what's the easiest way for people to find your work and find out more?
Yeah, thank you. So you can learn more about the Come Together Music Project at cometogetherpodcast.com. You can also find us on all the socials. You can find full episodes on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and there's some an increasing number of clips on Instagram. And yeah, would love for folks to just engage. And I love to see in the comments when people tell us what songs they would have picked for these categories as well. And so we really mean for this to be an experience that nearly anybody can join in with and participate. And yeah, so thanks for joining me and letting me come on and talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. This has been so fun. I hope you get a lot of requests from our listeners too for more Come Together Music Project. You'll get a lot of invitations, I bet.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to We Made This Political with Laura Forcum and Lauren Hall. You can find us on Substack, Instagram, or LinkedIn. The podcast Substack is We Made This Political. Laura's Substack is How to Human, and Lauren's Substack is The Radical Moderate's Guide to Life. Subscribe and share if you like what you hear, and please also rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. That really, really helps other people find our work and means a lot to us too. Thanks for listening.